There is something strange you notice the moment you start paying attention closely to people in different parts of the world, and it is not something loud or obvious, but something subtle, something almost invisible, and that is how differently anxiety shows itself, because in some places anxiety is loud, expressive, visible in body language, in facial expressions, in constant movement, while in other places it feels like it doesn't exist at all, like people are walking through chaos with a calm that almost feels unnatural. And this is where Japan becomes fascinating, because if you observe carefully, you will start to feel that Japanese people don't show anxiety the way you do, and that creates a dangerous illusion that they are simply calmer, stronger, more emotionally stable, but that assumption is not only wrong, it is deeply misleading. Because the truth is not that they don't feel anxiety, the truth is that they learn very early how to hide it so well that even they start believing it is not there. And this is where things get uncomfortable. Because while you express your anxiety, talk about it, show it through your behavior, your voice, your reactions, they do something very different. They internalize it, compress it, bury it under layers of discipline, culture, and social expectation, until it becomes something silent but extremely powerful. And to understand why this happens, you have to understand one concept that defines Japanese psychology more than almost anything else, and that is the idea of gaman, which roughly translates to enduring the unbearable with patience and dignity, which sounds noble on the surface, almost admirable, but psychologically it creates a system where showing emotional weakness is not encouraged, and over time, this doesn't just change behavior, it rewires how people deal with internal stress. Because imagine growing up in an environment where from a young age you are taught not to disturb others, not to create discomfort, not to express negative emotions openly, and where harmony is valued more than individual expression. What happens is that your mind adapts, not by removing anxiety, but by hiding it deeper. And that is the first big difference between you and them. You release tension. They contain it. You react outwardly. They process inwardly. And this is why when you look at someone in Japan walking calmly through a stressful situation, you assume they are okay, but what you don't see is the internal pressure building beneath that calm surface, because anxiety doesn't disappear when it's hidden, it just changes form. And this is where your mistake begins. Because you look at your own reactions, your overthinking, your visible stress, your emotional responses, and you think something is wrong with you, you think you are weaker, less disciplined, less in control, but in reality, what you are doing is something psychologically natural. You are allowing anxiety to move through you instead of trapping it inside. And ironically, that makes you more flexible, not weaker. But society doesn't reward that. Society rewards control, composure, calmness under pressure, even if that calmness is artificial, even if it comes at the cost of long-term mental strain, and this is why the Japanese model looks so appealing from the outside, because it creates the illusion of stability. But here is what most people don't talk about. Japan also has some of the highest rates of stress-related conditions, burnout, and emotional suppression patterns, not because people are weak, but because when anxiety is not expressed, it has to go somewhere. It turns into silence. It turns into isolation. It turns into internal pressure that has no release valve. And now suddenly, the calm doesn't look so perfect anymore. Because what you thought was strength is often just control. And control is not the same as peace. Peace is when anxiety exists, but doesn't control you. Control is when anxiety exists, but you hide it. And those are two completely different psychological states. So when you compare yourself and think, why can't I be like them, you are comparing two systems that operate differently, one that prioritizes expression and release, and one that prioritizes suppression and endurance. And both come with consequences. But here is where it becomes dangerous for you specifically. Because you live in a culture that shows you the result of their calm, but never the cost behind it. You see the composure, but not the pressure. You see the discipline, but not the internal tension. You see the silence, but not the emotional weight behind it. And because of that, you start to believe that your anxiety is the problem, when in reality, the real problem is how you interpret it. Because anxiety itself is not your enemy. It is information. It is your mind reacting to uncertainty, pressure, expectations, and fear of outcomes, and the goal is not to eliminate it, because that is impossible. The goal is to understand it without letting it control your behavior. And this is something neither extreme does perfectly. If you suppress everything, you lose emotional awareness. If you express everything without control, you lose stability. So the real question is not why Japanese people don't show anxiety. The real question is, what are they sacrificing to maintain that image of calm, and what are you sacrificing when you constantly fight your own natural reactions? Because once you understand this, you stop idolizing one model and start building your own. A version where you can feel anxiety without being ashamed of it. Where you can stay calm without pretending everything is fine. Where you can control your reactions without denying your emotions. And that balance is rare. Because most people go to extremes. Either they explode, or they suppress. Either they show everything, or they hide everything. But the people who actually grow psychologically are the ones who learn to sit in the middle, where anxiety is acknowledged, but not obeyed. And once you reach that point, something interesting happens. You stop comparing yourself to others. Because you realize that calmness is not something you copy. It is something you build. And it doesn't come from pretending you don't feel anything. It comes from understanding exactly what you feel and still choosing how you respond. So the next time you look at someone who seems calm in chaos, don't assume they are better than you. Ask yourself a different question. Are they truly calm? Or are they just better at hiding what you are brave enough to feel? Because the answer to that question will change how you see yourself. And more importantly, it will change how you deal with your own mind. And maybe, this is the part no one tells you. The people you think are calm might just be better at hiding what they feel. And you, the one who overthinks, who feels everything too deeply, who can't just switch off anxiety. You're not broken. You're just more aware of it. And awareness is uncomfortable. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. So the real question is not, why am I more anxious than them? The real question is, am I expressing something real while they are hiding it? Because if that's true, then maybe your anxiety isn't weakness. Maybe it's honesty. If you've ever felt like this, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. And if this made you see things differently, you already know what to do.